The product in this video was provided by Meta in a collaboration with Backbone. I am not a pro gamer, never have been, never will be, and I've always kind of given like side eye to the people who spend $150, $200, $300 on these quote pro controllers. So enter the Backbone Pro. Backbone reached out to me through the MetaQuest Creator Program to try out their new controller. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty skeptical. I was like, why would I use this? But for the sake of fairness, I decided to give it a shot because really I think every piece of hardware and tech out there has a use case for somebody, even if it's not just me. Going through the full information first, the Backbone Pro retails for $169.99 USD right now. It's compatible with any Android phone, and if you have an iPhone, you're going to need an iPhone 15 or above, because the iPhone 14 and below currently still uses the old Lightning charger, and the adapter on the Backbone Pro uses a USB-C. You can see it on the bottom there, and that only started with the iPhone 15. So you have an older iPhone, you're not going to be able to use this. The Backbone Pro uses something called flow state technology. What that basically means is that you can plug your phone into it, just like shown in some of the images here, and you can seamlessly go between your phone, your tablet, your PC, whichever, and now you can go between that and MetaQuest. With the full battery charge, which takes roughly about 3 hours to charge the whole battery up, you'll get about 40 hours of gaming. I did test that myself. I gamed on my phone and in my Quest, and I ran down the battery 2 different times over the course of the last couple of weeks. 40 hours is pretty accurate. It should be noted, because you'll see it on the website, I'll leave a link down below, that there is a paid subscription service for Backbone called Backbone Plus. You actually don't need that to use the controller itself. For purposes of this test, I tested it with my Quest headset, just using the free version, and everything worked fine. What you get with the sub service is unlocking all the features, or some of the features that I just talked about. You'll get a unified game hub, meaning you can tie in like your Steam account, your Xbox account, all your disparate gaming platforms into one thing within the Backbone app itself, and just launch any game from within the one app instead of hopping back and forth. You'll also need the sub service if you want to use the Backbone Pro for your PC, your Mac, or an iPad. The free version gives you access to the MetaQuest, which is what we're talking about for this video, and for your phone. Setup is pretty simple. There's a button on the very bottom of it right there that you can use to put it into Bluetooth pairing mode, and you would just simply go into your headset, turn on Bluetooth, and pair it with your Quest. You would also want to do that for your phone for use of the Backbone app. Once it's paired the first time with your headset, you don't actually need to put your headset back on to pair it. You can pair it manually from your phone directly without the headset being on, as long as it's powered on. The other thing you can do with this controller is set up specific profiles for specific devices or for games. You're going to want to do that. That's really important, because if you hit this Backbone button here, which is this color button on the right side of the controller, if you're in the app, like when I was testing this, I was playing Tetris Effect among a bunch of other games, it actually takes you out of the app on the Quest and puts you back into what is now the navigator environment. And then you have to pick up your touch controller to reopen the app, even though the app is still going. So I was sitting there in Navigator, into my home screen, but I could hear Tetris Effect in the background still going. It was a little weird. So you're going to want to set up a profile to reprogram that button specifically, just to keep that from happening to you. So with all the info out of the way, let's talk about usability. If you're going to use this for native Quest, honestly, I probably wouldn't recommend this. Not because the controller itself is bad, I actually quite liked it. There just aren't enough Gamepad games specifically built for VR that are going to do that, unless you're playing older PC VR games, and most likely you might have another controller for that. In terms of native Quest games, I tested this with Tetris Effect. There's a bunch of other games listed on the Quest store that say they have Gamepad support, and I tried them and they don't. So Tetris Effect was the only game I had on hand I could test this with, and I appreciate it because I grew up playing Tetris on the old Nintendo Entertainment System, the big old NES, just to date myself. And I was very used to using the D-pad. So using the analog stick to play Tetris Effect on my Quest there was a learning curve there, and I would have like miss inputs all the time, so my stick would be a little touchy, especially when I started having stick drift. The stick drift was bad. Beyond that, I checked out some of the old Gamepad games on the Rift store. There's games like Republic from Camouflage, the makers of Batman Arkham Shadow. That game uses a controller. There's a couple of controller pad games from Insomniac Games. You might know them best for the Spider-Man games on PlayStation. They made a couple of games like Feral Rights, which is just a 2D brawler that was actually a lot of fun to play all the way through. And then there's a horror adventure game called Edge of Nowhere, also from Insomniac Games. It's based off the H.P. Lovecraft book At the Mountain of Madness. The game's a little short, but I really liked it. Playing these games with the controller, everything felt really nice and responsive. There was no input lag. Everything just felt really good. It's a good premium product, which for that price you would hope it would be. Beyond that, in the last couple of years, we've seen 2 new cloud streaming services come to the Quest platform. There was Xbox Gamepad that was promised years and years and years ago, and we finally got it, and it worked pretty seamlessly, except I always had a problem pairing my Xbox controller. It never stayed paired. In about 4 or 5 tests with the Backbone Pro, I never had an issue with that. The other service is GeForce Now. I did a full video on that. Feel free to check that video on the channel if you want to know more about that. It is a browser-based service, so you have to sign in. There's no actual app built for that, at least not yet. We hope we can get one in the future. And this controller worked absolutely seamlessly with that. So the real question is, who is this for? If you are only using your Quest to play newer native VR games, honestly, this is probably not going to be a good product for you because your touch controllers can do every single thing you need to in that respect. But if you're the type of gamer who, number one, games on multiple platforms, if you game on mobile, if you game on your tablet, and you're gaming in VR, or if you're someone who's using your Quest for 2D gaming like the cloud services like Game Pass or GeForce Now, or if you're using something like Virtual Desktop or Big Screen Beta, I used Virtual Desktop when I was testing games for this video. At that point, if you're using your Quest like a gaming monitor, then this absolutely holds value for you because you're not having to switch between different controllers depending on what you're doing. So those are my general thoughts. It's a good controller. It really is. I have really no complaints about it. The only question I would say is, do I think every single Quest owner needs to use one of these? Probably not. But if you're someone who's using your Quest as your primary gaming monitor and you're gaming on 2D and in VR, then this absolutely holds value for you, especially if, like me, you're tired of your Xbox controllers now having dead buttons and stick drift happening. Again, I'm on my 3rd Xbox controller in the last 3 years, and I don't use it that often because most of the time I'm gaming in VR. They just wear out so quickly. I'm also a Nintendo guy, so I know very well about how bad the stick drift is on Joy-Cons. I have a link down below and in the pinned comment if you want to check out the Backbone Pro for yourself, plus you'll be helping to support the channel. Thanks for watching, catch you on the next one.